Greetings, my magnificent ones. Sue Paulson here, your magnificence mentor. Welcome to The Right Space. This is episode number 5. We're going to focus today on the turning point that I call be happy. So I want to start with a quote. The quote I found, which I just loved, goes like this. You can't wait until life isn't hard anymore to be happy. Well, this quote was by Nightbird, who is also known as Jane Mrzowski. You can't wait until life isn't hard to be happy. Well, let's face it, life throws us lots of curveballs, lots of challenges, lots of opportunities to not be happy. To experience suffering, to experience misery, and the whole gamut of things. All you have to do is turn on the news channel. There's lots of misery being talked about, believe me. And everywhere the camera turns, you see more of it. But how much does that help us? So you may know that I'm all about each of us believing in our own magnificence and doing what we can do to grow into that more and more and more and more. And you also may know that the concept of heaven on earth to me is very near and dear to my heart. I want us to have heaven on earth right here, right now. So happiness becomes an integral part of that, I think, or at least for me it does. When I was younger, there was always this inner pull to figure out what my mission was. Why am I here on earth? What's my purpose? What does it all mean? And how can I contribute to it? In what way? I went through varying degrees of feeling pretty happy with what I was contributing. And I also went through times where I was lost and I had no idea what to do that mattered, and or if even in fact whether what I was doing mattered or not. So it's been an ebb and flow in the idea of what's my mission. There was a little voice said to me a few years ago, you know, that little voice that just gently whispers in your ear to plunk a thought in or raise a question. The question to me was, Sue, what if your mission on earth now was to be happy? And I'm going, be happy? What do you mean be happy? Well, I wrestled with this, be happy. And that was all I got. Like, okay, give me more. I'm a how-to kind of person. Can you spell it out for me a little more? Well, I didn't get anything except what was wandering around in my head about that. So I gave it considerable thought. The conclusion that I came to was, well, I don't know if I know how to be happy, but maybe I can do happy. Maybe I can do things that will generate happiness. You know, happiness is kind of the byproduct of that. So what would that be like? So I embarked on this little campaign about be happy for about a week. Every morning before I got out of bed, I would think about, well, what could I do today to help me feel happy? What would make me happy today? Well, it's so interesting that in the course of the day, it turned out that there were a lot of things that could trigger that happiness in me, or the end result would be happiness. And of course, it often starts with, you know, a great cup of tea, Earl Grey with a little cream in it. So I wouldn't do anything before I thought about what would make me happy right here, right now. Sometimes it was putting on some bouncy music and dancing around the living room. Sometimes it was gazing out at the vista through my window, regardless of what kind of weather was there. It could be the birds in the springtime and the bright sunshine. It could be the green grass in the summer. It could be the crunch of the fall leaves in the wintertime, or no, in the fall, the crunch of the fall leaves, and then in the wintertime, freshly fallen snow. So there were all of those nature things that I could turn to that I would feel happy as a result of that. So as I say, for about a week, every day, I would do things, and I had this, it was like this make-believe happy button. I'd do something that I thought would make me happy, and when I was done and I felt happy, I'd hit that button. Oh, that made me happy. Oh, so I, put a little mark on the wall. Then I'd carry on and do another thing and do another thing. Well, after about 4 days straight of this, being very focused and very conscious of what I was up to and making mental note of, did that make me happy? I woke up on the 5th morning happy for no reason. I hadn't got out of bed. I hadn't thought about anything. My eyes popped open, and I just had this overwhelming sense of happiness, just kind of flooding my whole being. Oh, it felt wonderful. And of course, there was this little piece of me that wondered, oh, I wonder how long this is going to last. But I thought, well, I'm enjoying it for however long it lasts. I'm really going to enjoy this. Well, it lasted for the whole day. I felt happy for the whole day. It was wonderful. It was a little glimpse of what I thought heaven on earth should be like. The next morning, morning 6, I wake up. I am grumpy. I had this overwhelming sense of just nastiness. Like I didn't feel right with the world. I felt out of sorts, and my mood was the opposite of what it had been the day before. I went from being really happy to really grumpy. Well, of course, then I have a choice at that point. What am I going to do about that? So from long years of being in my own pity party and going there frequently, I thought, well, how long do I want this to last? Because I knew that it was up to me to change this. I knew that somehow I would need to flip the dynamic back towards what I most desired instead of feeling the way I was. And I mulled over different scenarios, and because nobody will come to your pity party, right? I mean, you're just in it wallowing alone. So there I am, and I'm thinking, well, I mean, I guess I have this grump mood for a couple hours or half a day or a full day. And I'm thinking, I don't want it to last that long. So I thought, well, what about 20 minutes? And so I kind of set my internal timer and thought, all right, how long is it going to take me to work myself out of this? So I went right back into, well, okay, I'm feeling kind of blue and miserable at the moment. What would make me happy right now, right in this second? And then I thought of something. Well, Sue, put on some nice music. So I did that gradually. And certainly within that 20-minute time span, my mood had shifted and I was back to feeling much happier. So what did this teach me? Well, first of all, it taught me that we do have control over how we're feeling. Regardless of the circumstances going on around me, I still was in charge of my outlook, my feelings, my attitude, my whatever, and how that affected me, that I'm in charge of that. Well, the beauty in that is that if I don't like what's going on, I can make a shift. I can figure something out that will draw that in. The other beautiful lesson that came to me is if I focus on and do the things that lead me to my happiness, that trigger happiness, that enable me to experience it, if I do that often enough, then I do get to the point where the happiness is just there. I didn't have to do anything to make it be a part of me. So this is what I wanted to talk to you about this week, because when I think about our heaven on earth, when I think about what it is that leads us to the life that maybe we've always dreamed of and didn't know what we could have, I think happiness is an integral part of that. Happiness and joy to me are first cousins. And that those two, of course, result from lots of self-love. So isn't it interesting that it's important that we love ourselves enough to give ourselves the gift of experiencing happiness, of experiencing joy, of doing what it takes to change our beingness in that moment to something different if it's not to our liking. Well, all of those pieces fit that big picture puzzle called heaven on earth. What does that look like? For each person, it's going to be slightly different because you're unique to what your life pattern has been, your experiences, and all of the things that you bring to the table, just as that's the same for me. I'm different from you, but we share that common desire, I think, that common thread to say, I could have a better world. My own world could be better, and the world out there could be better. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, of course, it starts with us. It starts with each of us inside ourselves to make that determination and say, well, even if life is hard for me right now, even if the bills are piling up in the mailbox, even if there may not be enough food on the table to last the day, never mind the rest of the month, even if there's tragedy and trauma in my family and things aren't going well, still there can be those moments, those turning points where you say, it doesn't need to slay me. It doesn't need to put me down and out. I still have me inside of me, and I love myself enough that I can figure out 1 second of happiness. I can bring a smile to my own face because of a thought that I have, a memory that was particularly poignant, a kindness from a stranger, or a kindness that I offered to a stranger, something that a family member did for me, unannounced, unexpected. All of those things are possibilities when we look at saying, okay, what's heaven on earth like to me? I think the accumulation of all of those very positive things, all those happy moments, then reinforce our strength, reinforce the power that we do have, the power to choose. You've heard it said more than once, I'm sure, that we have free will. Well, we do. We're free to choose in any given moment something more to our liking, something that will give us potentially a better result than what we have right now. I think sometimes we just don't believe that either we have free will or that we can take advantage of that we can use that to our good purposes. It doesn't take much for it to be kind of beaten into us over years that, well, you have no choice, you blah, 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 blah. And there's society's restrictions and rules and structure that seems to bump up against what we most want, which is a certain amount of freedom to just soar and be all that we are, right? So it takes some work to set that aside. It takes some work to turn away from that, to turn away from the misery, away from the continual frustration, or away from the depression, away from the anxiety, towards something better, something that eases, something that soothes, and ultimately something that brings a sparkle to our eyes and joy to our faces and a smile to our lips. So there's a way out of whatever that is. And I think focusing on happiness is a very, very cool way to do that. You'll like it, I promise you, if you do it. So I'm challenging you this week in the Write Space to write about happiness. What is happiness for you? Maybe part of what you write is a list of all the things that do make you happy, and maybe another list of all the things that you think could make you happy. Well, if I tried that, that might make me happy. And then, of course, the second part of the challenge is to go and actually do that, live that. Give yourself a little experiment to participate in and try it on for yourself. Don't take my word for it. I mean, it worked for me. And that's why I'm sharing it with you, because it works so well for me. And I want to invite you to do your own experiment about that and see what happens. So that's it for today on the Write Space. You can always access more of my content on my YouTube channel, my Sue Paulson YouTube channel. I have Tea with Sue on there. There's Magnificence Moments. I have an app as well, Your Magnificence Mentor, that you can download onto your phone if you want to watch the videos that I've prepared or read the articles that are on there for you, all designed to help you grow more and more into the magnificent being you really are. You already are that. It's just acknowledging it, embracing it, believing in it, because that's a key step into living your brand of heaven on earth. Take good care. See you next time.